Hi, welcome to the test review on nomenclature. Let's go over a few things. Well, the first section is going to be a matching. Well, maybe not the first section on all of the different forms, but anyway, you're going to need to know things like what a monoatomic ion is, acids, bases, law of definite proportions, law of multiple proportions, cation, anion, binary compound, polyatomic ion. Now, let's talk about additional things you're going to need to know. You're going to need to know the Greek prefixes, mono, di, tri, tetra, etc. You're going to need to know when do you use the stock system? When do you use the stock system? You're going to need to know what a polyatomic ion is. When do you use polyatomic ions? What is an acid? How do you name an acid? Binary acid nomenclature, for instance, HCl is going to be hydrochloric. So really the only binary acids are the ones that have hydrogen as the cation and as the anion a single element, such as nitrogen, sulfur, carbon, not oxygen. Oxygen's, that's going to be water. Fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, for instance, hydronitric, hydrofluoric, hydrobromic, hydroiodic, hydrosulfuric, hydrophosphoric, etc. And then what is a ternary or an oxyacid, such as you take a polyatomic ion and you use the root, for instance, sulfate would be sulfur us for ite and sulfuric for ate. In other words, when the polyatomic ions ends in ate, then you use the suffix ic. And then when it ends in ite, you use the suffix us. And there are no prefixes. There's no prefixes with the ternary acids. The only time you use a prefix is with the binary acids. When do you use the Roman numerals? When do you actually use the stock system? You use it for the first 8 columns of transition elements and some of the heavier P's such as lead. Iron 2 oxide, iron 3 oxide, iron 2 chloride, iron 3 chloride, iron 2 phosphate, iron 3 phosphate, etc. You have to be, what's a halide? You know what a halide is? Remember that from the periodic table? You have to be given a cation and an anion. You have to write the correct formula. You name the correct formula. Let's see. What do you use for molecular compounds? And when are molecular compounds formed? And how do you name them? And what does the law of multiple proportions have to do with molecular compounds? That's interesting. Let's see, what else? Molecular compounds again, acids. What's chloric acid, chlorous acid, perchloric acid, hypochlorous acid? Let's see, what else? Here's some acids. What's the hydronium ion? How is that formed? What kind of bond is involved in the formation of a hydronium ion? If I have cobalt chloride, can you distinguish between cobalt 2 chloride, cobalt 4 chloride, etc.? And that's about it. I mean, it goes through let's review the 4 classes of nomenclature. You have binary nomenclature, simple binary nomenclature, where the positive ion is from groups 1, 2, or 13, and that's the cation, and the anion is from group 15, 16, 17. So if you take sodium and phosphorus, it would be sodium phosphide, or group 1 and group 17, it would be sodium chloride, etc. Then you have the ternary acids where, remember, the single element is always IDE. And then you have the polyatomic ion, for instance, phosphate. So you'd have sodium phosphate, sodium phosphate, sodium sulfate, sodium sulfite, potassium sulfite. And then you have to make sure that you arrange the number of each cation and anion so it's a zero charge, the particle. Know what a formula unit is. Know what a molecule is. And then you have the stock system, where if you have a cation with a multiple number of oxidation states, then you can distinguish between the two cations by using a Roman numeral for its oxidation state. Iron 2 chloride, which would be iron plus 2. Iron 3 chloride, which would be iron plus 3. Then you have the Greek system. Mono, di, tri, those are Greek prefixes that denote the subscript used, but you don't use mono for a positive component. For instance, CO, carbon, no prefix on the positive component, so it would be 1. There's no prefix, automatically 1. So carbon monoxide, yeah, you use that mono for the negative component, but not the positive component. Carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, you're not using the mono for the positive component. That's about it. And then you have, let's do one more, dinitrogen pentoxide. And then you have the acid nomenclature, which we've already talked about, where you have something like HCl, hydrochloric. That's a binary acid, so you have the prefix hydro and the suffix ic, all binary acids. Then you have the ternary acid, which is a polyatomic ion. No prefix, just the suffix, and that's going to be, for instance, that's going to be H2SO4, because the sulfate is -2, the hydrogen is +1, so it'll be sulfuric acid. Add that extra syllable for sulfuric and phosphoric acids. So you have sulfuric acid, H2SO4, sulfurous acid, H2SO3, phosphoric acid, H3PO4, phosphorus acid, H3PO3. And that's about it. Good luck. That's going to be right after the holidays. Not the holidays, the break, before winter break. Okay, have a good day, and make sure you take that test early if you're leaving. You don't want to let that go until after the break because you won't remember a thing. All right, all the best. Have a good day. Going to be an exciting day in school today, and goodbye.